Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Buckeye Politics. It's me, your favorite Ohioan. So today we are discussing Andrew Yang, a former businessman, and he ran for president with the Democratic Party in 2020. He got his ass handed to him in the Democratic primaries. So then he decided to go to New York City, run for mayor, got his ass handed to him again, and now he's back making a third party. So, yeah, it hasn't officially been announced yet, but someone close to him, I believe, will be, yeah, two people familiar with the matter have told Politico and several other news sites. It'll be officially announced October 5th with the release of his new book, Forward, Notes on the Future of Our Democracy. They don't know much about it, except for the fact that it is most likely going to be more of a center party. Um, you have the Republicans on the right, Democrats on the left, and Andrew Yang is going to try to find that center area, and yeah, we'll see what happens. I personally don't think this party is going to get anywhere. I doubt it will see much success. If anything, it's just going to be another green or libertarian party to take away votes from the bigger parties. But there may be some good that comes out of this for the Republicans, especially in 2022 and 2024 and beyond. Because, let's be honest with ourselves, Andrew Yang is certainly a Democrat, and the people voting for his party are certainly going to be Democrats. So hopefully, if we even if it's just a small percentage or two, that could flip this. That could flip the state of the future elections in swing states. I mean, if you look at Georgia on the actual election in the Senate, the Libertarian candidate was only stole a few thousand votes from the Republicans in the official election, not the runoff, the official election, forcing the runoff. And because of that, we now have a 50-50 split in the Senate because David Perdue actually did win the original race in Georgia by about a point, I believe. It was a decent victory. It wasn't like super slim. He won it by about a point, but they had to go to the special election because the Libertarian candidate took away too many votes to get David Perdue to 50%, and now here we have it. So the fact that just a party existing and taking, even if it's just a few thousand votes, could completely change the course of American politics is something very interesting and something that we're going to be talking about as we make a map for 2024 if Yang runs as a third party candidate. So here we go. We're at the electoral map. We have Donald Trump, Joe Biden, and Andrew Yang. No really specific reason that I picked Biden and Trump. It could just as easily be DeSantis and Kamala, or any combination of any Republican and any Democrat. And Andrew Yang being in yellow, he's not a libertarian. It's just a generic third party color. So we're gonna fill in all the safe states for Donald Trump, which will pretty much be every safe state he won. I seriously doubt Andrew Yang's party will gain much traction, except for maybe a few thousand votes in the inner city, New York, and like maybe the Northeast a little bit. But with that said, he could still do well eventually. There's a lot of smaller parties that are not, I guess, as popular that could soon be. And so with that, we now have the safe states for both sides. I seriously doubt Yang would make much of an impact in maybe like not New York, but maybe like Connecticut or like New Jersey or like Delaware could be a little more competitive depending on how Andrew Yang runs his party. But I seriously doubt that much would happen. The likely states for Trump in this scenario probably include the states of Texas, Iowa, Ohio, Florida, the generic likely red states, probably Maine's District 2. Yeah, I seriously doubt, if anything, Andrew Yang would steal votes away from Biden, especially those more center suburban voters, which we'll get into in a second as we fill in the likely states for Biden, which include the states of Maine at large and probably Virginia. Actually, Virginia, I'll say for a second. I'm not saying it's not Biden's not going to win it. I just think we should talk about that. So these are pretty much the states that are not going to change no matter what. And actually, Maine D1 will probably be likely. I doubt much will change there. So yeah, so we have all the rest of these states. Now, if Yang runs as a third-party candidate, he takes away to about 2%. Let's just say for funsies, he takes away about a 1.5 to 2% of Biden's vote. Now, and he gets mostly suburban voters. That's Biden. That's the Democrats' main base. It's becoming suburban white voters. And if Yang takes votes away from them, well, the Democrats are screwed in states like Virginia, Colorado, New Mexico. I'm not saying that maybe Minnesota. I'm not saying that the Democrats are going to lose and those states are going to be like Republican again. But I am saying that like those states could be, in terms of margins, could be much closer. Um, all that stuff. I do think Virginia would probably go likely for Biden, probably just barely above 5 points, because I feel like Biden has kind of, well, the Democrats are certainly going to do better and better in Virginia, but especially with the recall, stuff could happen there. And if Yang takes away some of that suburban vote, the suburban voting block that Biden had found a way to tap into, especially in Nova, then I think that it does narrow out quite a bit. Same with Colorado. I seriously doubt it will be super competitive, but still, the fact that Yang is on the ballot, taking a few percentage points away from mostly white suburbanites who are in the center of the political aisle, that's becoming Biden his block, not necessarily middle down the aisle, but some white suburbanites. And so taking away votes from those from Biden, for Yang taking away votes from Biden could make these states a little bit closer, maybe in a Senate or governorship race like Youngkin. If Yang made his party for this election cycle, Youngkin would probably be up by a few points in the polls, especially because the Democrats are going to lose a few points of support. New Mexico would probably lean. Yang might make a few little small inroads, but seriously not that much. So these are the states that remain. We're going to fill them in east to west. New Hampshire, I think, would probably still go to Biden, but just by a tilt. I mean, Andrew Yang would probably do very well in New Hampshire because he's a center of the aisle candidate, and New Hampshire does dislike incumbents. But I just think that it's, as of now, a little too far left to go to Trump. It probably would be like by 2016 margins, very incredibly close. But I do think Biden would narrowly pull it off in this scenario. The state of Pennsylvania, however, would probably go to Trump by a lean margin because, I mean, a lot of the suburbanites in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Erie, especially the eastern side of Pennsylvania, near Philadelphia, mostly Philadelphia suburbanites, a lot of them would actually vote for Yang. A lot of those center, middle of the aisle, white suburbanites, not necessarily the white working class suburbanites, but the more suburbanites, I guess you could say. They would probably vote for Yang by decent margins, especially considering Yang has kind of based his campaign around the Northeast. So I do think Trump would certainly win Pennsylvania by probably about 3-4 points. Michigan, Trump would probably win Michigan by a tilt margin because Yang would take votes away from Biden. In Detroit, the Detroit area, his welfare thing with the universal basic income, I'm not sure if that's considered welfare per se, but still the fact that that is on Yang's campaign list does show that he is yeah, I'm sure that a lot's very popular in parts of Michigan, especially inner city Detroit. Just a few points, and boom, Trump narrowly wins Michigan. Wisconsin's probably going to go red already, no matter like what happens, unless something crazy happens. Wisconsin's very likely to go Republican in 2024 and probably 2022 as well. I seriously doubt the Democrats will win a statewide election in Wisconsin for a long time. But that said, it would probably go to Trump by about 3-4 points, just because it's probably going to go red already, plus about 2 points for Yang, and it's probably R plus 3, R plus 4. Minnesota is very interesting. I'm going to put that as a tilt for Biden because Minnesota is very. I'm not really sure. Probably a lean, actually. I'm going to put Minnesota as lean. I seriously don't know how to consider Minnesota. Part of me thinks it's going to keep going redder with the rest of the Rust Belt, but then again, you also got to remember that Minneapolis is growing while the entire rest of the state is losing population, which is the one thing that makes me say Minnesota is probably going to keep going bluer. It's going to be the next Illinois and Georgia that we don't talk about as much. Maybe I'll make a video about Minnesota. It's so hard to predict, though. That may not be worth it. But anyway, Minnesota probably go to Biden by about a point or two, just because Yang would probably take some of the Minneapolis suburbanite votes away. Trump would just do better in the white working class, but because it is so far to the left, Biden would probably still win it. North Carolina would lean to Trump probably by about 4 points, as some of the more the Raleigh suburbs. It'd be very interesting looking at like the inner city probably being probably safe Democrats still, but being a few points closer for Yang. And the suburbs probably either going to Yang or being 50-50, and then the rural areas just being even more maxed out for the Republicans. That'd actually be a very interesting map looking at it. Just thinking about that. But yeah, North Carolina probably lean to Trump. Similar to Wisconsin, maybe a little more red, maybe closer to 5. Wisconsin's closer to 4. But yeah, Georgia, I also think in this scenario would definitely tilt to Trump. This is not like a specific prediction, I should say. It's kind of just like kind of thrown together, so don't take this with a grain of salt. But yeah, if Yang is on the ballot, he's going to take a lot of votes away from Trump and one white suburbanites in Atlanta. That's a huge Democratic voting block is in Georgia. It's pretty much held. Democratic Party in Georgia is pretty much held together by blacks in inner city Atlanta and white suburbanites. So that said, you take away one of those voting blocks, and even if it's just by a few points, and Trump does narrowly win Georgia. I'm pretty black-pilled on Georgia, although I'm becoming more white-pilled. Georgia's going to be a very difficult state to predict. It's a very interesting state. That's all I have to say about that. Nebraska 2nd District probably lean to Trump. It's very suburban, and it did go to Biden by like 6 points, but I think that's kind of a fluke, and hopefully it will get gerrymandered. Hopefully. And then, Yeah, so Trump probably wins it by about similar to Wisconsin and North Carolina, maybe Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania probably be closer to two. It's probably closer to 3, 4 points. Um, Arizona, I mean, Arizona probably tilts to Trump. I mean, you look at Maricopa County, that's a very suburban county. Just a few, Arizona was incredibly close, like 14,000 votes. Take a few of those, just take a few percentage points of Maricopa County, and boom, Trump wins Arizona. And honestly, Biden's approval rating in Arizona, he's underwater even in some of the more moderate polls I've seen. And so, yeah, I do think Arizona would tilt to Trump. It's a blue trending state, but it is still a swing state. So that's what I have to say about that. Nevada as well would probably tilt to Trump. Nevada, I think that Trump has a solid. Nevada, I think that Trump does have a solid shot of winning in Nevada. Um, uh, in general, in 2024 and 2022, the Republicans have a good shot at both the Senate and gubernatorial, specifically the gubernatorial. But I do think there is a chance with the Senate race as well to be incredibly competitive. And so with that, we have the Trump versus Biden with Andrew Yang on the ticket. And really, not much would change except in a few swing states. Maybe like Colorado or Virginia would be lean, but seriously, not much would change except for the fact that in a couple of swing states it would narrow up. And yeah, that's about it. So with that, thank you for watching. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.